Is that loud enough?
Until somebody walks by out here.
Okay. Thank you all for showing up on a very blustery March night. They say that March comes in like a lion, and I hear there's a chance of snow tonight. Is that a good angle?
Bring it up a little.
Mark, can you? There we go. How's that? Yay.
Yeah.
I'm a prose writer, so it's going to be a little shift in the mid-program here. My name is K McCrea. I am a child of Eugene, a native. I went to Sheldon High School. I graduated from the University of Oregon into the worst lumber recession we've ever had. And I left the area to find my fortune, which happened to be in computer technology, a burgeoning field. I always thought I would go to graduate school, but life had other plans until after I finished a long career in technology and I was able to write again, especially during the past year. I used to work right across the street on the 4th floor at the library in the City of Eugene's Information Technology Division. So the first piece I'm going to read to you harkens back and begins with that. Kelly, is that your water?
It is.
Can I just move it back? So
Yes.
This piece is called Vagabond. 6 months ago, I resigned from a job working in a shabby cubicle with a stunning view to the east. I rarely turned around from my dual monitors to look out the window, not unless there was a rainbow or a takedown at the transit center. Even then, I only turned because other staff rushed into my cube to lean against the credenza, chattering and pointing and leaving fingerprints on the glass. I spent too many years in different cubes. In hindsight, remarkably all the same. I write at home now. I spend long moments lost, gazing out windows. My writing desk is upstairs in the southwest corner of the house. Spencer Butte is framed outside the windows, looming sometimes, like an iceberg daunting the bow of a ship. This corner enclave is where I write longhand, with black ink in a book of unlined paper. On most mornings, I notice my handwriting has improved these past 6 months. It was nearly illegible when I started the book. I thumb through the pages and volumes and see this practice has also given me a steadier line across the page. I have a laptop computer, a tablet computer, and a smartphone, all with writing software installed. My computer desk with a pull-out keyboard tray faces east onto our quiet residential street. I move back and forth from east to west, into the kitchen for toast, and more time looking out of windows. Several small enclaves are carved out for writing, some with Post-it notes, some with power cords, all with windows. I move around, toting the laptop like a serving tray, abandon it, and take up my tablet. There's a small notebook in the car, a pocket journal in my messenger bag. One should have options to jot, better ones than the back of a brew pub's weekly specials menu. Downstairs is for considering on things. After mid-morning on our dead-end street, There's too much noise upstairs to think. Our young female Labrador is loquacious. I have never encountered a dog that talks so much. Mercedes comments loudly on every cat, squirrel, and neighborhood child whacking the stick at the blackberries. She doesn't need to see the perceived threat. She can smell through the walls and unopened windows. Mercy barks. The newspaper carrier arrived. She growls. A flock of wild turkeys are pecking out on the verge. She sings a haunting whale song to rouse me out of bed in the morning. The dog has an impressive vocabulary. It is distracting, an understatement. A barking dog and a crying baby are both devilishly engineered by nature to disrupt attention. Somehow, I drafted a 200-page manuscript in my upstairs enclaves with regular disruptions for Mercy's commentary. For weeks, I acknowledged the same mail truck that arrives 6 days out of 7. Finally, I conceded to the nature of the dog. The dog will talk. I carved out a sheltered enclave in the small guest bedroom downstairs. The windows face the backyard, and the diversions on the street upstairs are muffled. I cobbled together a studio. I brought in a sturdy campaign table to serve multiple functions. It is suitable for writing, wrapping packages, or wrestling outside to serve as a picnic table. The light fixture reminded me of my childhood bedroom. The more I noticed it, the more I hated it. When I stared up at the square frosted glass etched with ferns, you know the one, right? I thought of sticky yellow walls and cheap fish sticks. I found a rubbed bronze fixture with amber glass and New Orleans style to gentle the overhead light. I bought a candle chandelier from a shabby chic vendor and hung it in the corner of the room. I filled it with 3 LED lights that fake flicker like real candles, but without the danger of fire when I forget to extinguish them. I will forget. One day soon, I'll run the batteries down. Since I aspire to write like a gypsy vagabond, I wanted an enclave outfitted with some spare graces of a bordello. Whilst considering on things, the muse is enticed over the windowsill, never the door's threshold. She's not fond of barking dogs. So that gives you an idea of at least the dog I live with, and she still barks, she talks, and makes me get out of my chair, but what are you gonna do? The second piece I'd like to share with you is actually a piece of short fiction. How are we on our Greek mythology? Are we all brushed up on Greek mythology? The Iliad, just a hint here before I start this piece. We can talk after it. This one is called To the Fairest. I adore parties. It pains me that I'm never invited to any. I go anyway. After hours flirting with the looking glass, draping the folds of my skirt into waterfalls, stacking silver bangles and bronze, and finally wrestling the serpentine knots of my hair to a pin, how can I stay away? Why not wear black to weddings? Mama says I never will be invited. not unless I learn to behave. Where's the fun in that? I want to zest things up. I want to give everyone an event to remember. It's a gift I have. Who remembers the well-behaved? Mama never goes to parties, so what does she know? She sits in the dark. Even a funeral can be teased up into an amusing little beehive. One has only to whisper the wicked secrets of the dead where they lie, waxy and wan, at eternal rest. Never neglect the juicy bits the living played, those ones in the parlor tippling sherry glasses, shaking their heads at this woeful loss and tragedy. Say, the dead man liked to diddle the neighborhood children while his wife closed the door and tiptoed away. Or turn to the child and observe such grief might be excessive when the corpse was not, in fact, his biological father. Surprise! If the mother is in attendance, ensure she is able to overhear your whispered confidence. Timing and positioning is an art on such occasions. One must have a flair for stagecraft. Done well, the atmosphere will ignite, crackle with electricity, exciting all together to stack their plates with sliced beef and scalloped potatoes, invigorating the bereaved company, who came resigned to just another dull and pious dirge. The food served at a funeral is always better than the elaborate rubbish served at a wedding feast. The women arrive and totter into the kitchen carrying hot covered dishes, their best fare, and then duck out the back to sneak a smoke. The men loiter, tinkling solemn tumblers of scotch while undressing the deviled eggs and fried chicken. Wedding food might as well be salted cod plated atop the ribbons of the bridal color scheme. Weddings are my favorite occasions, though not for the food. When the guests arrive, they are already twitchy and quarrelsome. Many are spoiling for an opening to steal the spotlight reserved for the bridal couple. After the special songs, the readings, and candle lighting, always the same special selections. The crowd is impatient to reach the hosted bar and throw down a few shots before enduring the endless dinner speeches. Everything is primed and ready to ignite. All that is needed is one tiny spark. I've never been invited to a wedding. I go to them all. My favorite wedding was ages ago. I was not on the guest list, naturally. Of course, I went anyway. I wasn't allowed across the threshold. At the door to the wedding hall, I found my way barred by several burly brutes refusing to let me enter. They found me out back as I circled to try the secluded path leading to the festivities and marched me out. No matter, I have a gift. That special day, it was a gift of a dainty apple, not large or knobby. It was wrought of solid gold and tastefully formed, quite suitable for a goddess. I stole it from the nymphs myself. Through the narrow crack of the doorway, between the legs of the biggest burly brute, it was a small matter to roll the little dumpling inside and will it to come to rest at the feet of the lovelies. Once the prize was noticed, they scrabbled for it like common tramps, until one held it aloft to read the inscription aloud to the assembled company. Kalisti, to the Fairest. She claimed it for herself. And then we're off. Zeus was wise or cowardly, though I find these qualities often occur yoked together in a matching pair. He refused to judge the contest himself. He would not choose who most deserved my pretty golden apple. Zeus sent the messenger to present the entire dispute to the shepherd boy of Troy, to let Paris decide which of the three goddesses would win my little fruit. Of course I followed. Of course I watched. Hera, with her cow eyes and womanly shoulders, was a favorite to win. Athena, with her bronze breasts and sharp chin, was never seriously in contention. Smirking Aphrodite, wheedling her long golden hair around a coy finger, offered the best bribe. And then we go here. It always comes back to the kickback, doesn't it? Shameless, she promised to give the boy another man's wife, Helen, Queen of Sparta, the most beautiful woman ever born or ever will be. Oh, ships will be launched, I knew. I looked forward to this war, coming on swift and hot like summer thunder, more than 1,000 weddings. For a stolen apple, 1,000 ships would launch. It was a bargain. How could the bridal couple ever foresee this dark bloom on their wedding day? Their son dying on the plains of Troy from an arrow shot by the same shepherd boy. It's not about the apple. It's stagecraft. I adore parties. So who remembers the story of the Trojan War? Everybody? Just to make sure that there was a goddess, Thetis, of the sea. And it was prophesied that her son would be greater than the father. So the gods got together and said, let's marry her off to a mortal. And she was married to Pelus. And this was a big deal because I think they were trying to convince Thetis it's okay to marry a mortal, that it was a big party for the gods. The speaker in the poem is the goddess of strife and discord, Eris. She's that same 13th fairy archetype you see in Sleeping Beauty. Remember, the 13th fairy was not invited. So she steals the golden apple and goes to the wedding anyway and inscribes on it this Kaleste, to the Fairest. And this is really the judgment of Paris you see in many, many pieces of Western art that kicked off the Trojan War. Okay, how about some more mythology? How about some nonfiction again? How am I doing for time?
You're at 19 minutes. You've got lots of time.
This is nonfiction again, and it is called Algebra, and it has a lot to do with finding names for things, the right words for things, and naming names. The first time I landed, I crossed by water. We sailed at night from the boot of Italy, running east in rain and wind, across the Ionian Sea. Our ferry tickets were deck class only, and what scarce shelter the deck afforded was already claimed. I pitched my freestanding tent. We wrestled our backpacks inside to weight the tent against the ship. All night, the nylon flustered and bucked against the wind. My sister and I tossed in the dark on the hard deck, fearing we would kite overboard. A clear dawn broke through the cypress trees of Corfu. I fell asleep, finally. I dreamt the throbbing ship engines were the heartbeat of a great beast beneath me, cradling me over the waves. There are not enough words for purple, I think. Of those few choices English offers to name the fusing of primary colors, most are artifice. Along that inside passage, the purples of sea and land wax dark at noon, entering the Bay of Patras. Great stone breasts of islands were illuminated by the rising sun on the water to port. Shapes, shaded aubergine, and heliotrope diminishing to violet. The diesel exhaust of the ferry smokestacks was swept away by the wind, yet the lingering back scent was rich like earth. Earth and the wine-dark sea. Andrew, a fisherman the apostle first called, was martyred in Patras. The Saints' Orthodox Cathedral is the largest in Greece. With its high dome ornamented with gilded icons and frescoes, its filigreed windows, it houses holy relics. These relics include Andrew's pinky finger. The marble step before the relic shrine is worn by years of pilgrims venerating the saint's finger. We descended into the darkness of the original stone church and filled our water bottles from the holy spring, called Andrew's, though once it was to meters. We left the church, the lingering incense, and climbed the hills covered in spring chamomile and wild thyme to lounge among the stones of the Castro. I was 20 years old. We would celebrate my sister's 24th birthday in 3 days with our mother in Athens. Europa was a Phoenician princess. She was enchanted by a great white bull, a gentle beast she crowned with wreaths of flowers and wild herbs. The bull bent a knee to her, and she climbed on his back, the lustrous white hide glistening as only a god shines. With the beautiful maiden on his back, the bull charged down to the sea and dove into the waves. The bull swam away from Tyre, in what is now Lebanon, to the island of Crete. The bull god Zeus ravished the Phoenician princess, and she gave birth to King Minos and his entire empire in Crete. The Greek word phoinio, from which the name Phoenicia derives, means purple. The Tyrrhenians extracted the royal purple dye from local species of sea snails and traded the precious pigment throughout the Mediterranean. That the lovely Princess Europa gave her name to the continent is curious. Crete is closer to North Africa than Athens. There are often puzzles in the meaning of things, in their naming, as well as artifice. As a younger son of the family, with no land to inherit and work, my grandfather walked to Athens and took ship for America. There were fables of gold in the streets waiting to be plucked, foil cigar bands mistaken for gold. He passed through Ellis Island in the early century, a short, sinewy man in a jostling crowd of immigrants, all with the very same dream of gold. Like other immigrants with difficult names, his own were anglicized by the baffled clerk at the processing counter. My grandfather's given name was changed from Lucas to Louis, and his family name reinvented as Augers. An auger can mean a tool for drilling holes or a portent of fortune. Here, perhaps, a new puzzle and artifice concealed in the rechristening. Once in the city, he darted through the dirty streets, gathering gold, foiled cigar bands. He worked. He traveled west. He married. He shot his thieving business partner, and the family hid in a cave in the desert hills. They boarded a train traveling further west and north. Our family name is the name of the winter star, he told my mother, holding her up to the window to point out the bright reddish star. I imagine their shared breath fogging the glass as they gaze up into the sky. They had come as far west as there was country to cross, to the very shores of the Pacific. Zeus gave the great white bull into the winter night sky as the constellation Taurus. The blazing red eye of the bull, high in the flying wedge of stars between Orion and the Pleiades, is named Algebra. It is an Arabic word meaning the follower. For the ancient Persians, it was one of the 4 royal stars, the watcher in the east. With my poor command of Greek, yet ongoing study of the stars, I eventually braided together the few clues to close the circle. My mother died years before I named Aldebaran, her father's family name, before I could raise my hand to point it out to my son on a clear December night. I returned to Greece 3 times, but never again made landing by sea. Each are allowed only one crossing, a white and turbid wake, and we pass. Names are named and lost. Stars remain. How's time, Helen?
It's past 20, it's 28 minutes now. So that's past your time.
I'm sorry.
I'd say that is past your time.
Thank you.